Robotics process automation, also known as RPA, can save companies up to 40% of time by automating repetitive rule-based processes. Once a company realizes the benefit of one bot, how can they scale up to automate more processes? Here with me today is Dmitry Karpev, the founder of ElectroNeek, one of the companies in this year's Accelerator cohort. He's going to share some top trends about RPA and bots, and also share a little bit about his company, which just raised their Series A's funding today. Thank you so much for being with me here today, Dmitry.
It's a big pleasure to be here with you today. Very grateful for this opportunity.
Great. So first, I want to start off by just asking if you can explain for our viewers at a very high level what robotics process automation is and why they should care.
Sure. So robotic process automation is a name of the family of the technologies that pretty much allow you to automate any rule-based repetitive labor over a computer. What we do, we provide a software that is used by developers to build bots that execute repetitive processes over a computer. It looks like an invisible human using mouse and keyboard to quickly do repetitive tasks. For instance, data migration between accounting systems, or onboarding a new client to an accounting system. Instead of manually taking data from Excel or from bank forms, you can build a bot that will do the same for you much quicker and much more efficiently.
Great. So I think our viewers are probably familiar with a lot of bots that they may see on different websites. So basically, it is a robot doing a process for you. I saw an interesting statistic the other day from Deloitte that said only 3% of organizations in 2020 were actually able to scale RPA. Can you talk a little bit about that? Why does that happen, and what are some of the challenges?
Sure. So I started in RPA pretty early when I worked at Ernst & Young and witnessed the first big implementations in Fortune 500 and Global 2000 companies. And it's always very exciting to start, because this is very powerful technology for bulk processes, usually centralized processes that traditionally are outsourced. Let's say accounts payable. You may have 5 people who do the same work in a big company that could be automated up to 80, 90%, sometimes 95%. Not so many exceptions, rule-based, very simple, a few systems involved. And RPA wasn't cheap, and it's still not cheap technology by any means. Typically, leading RPA vendors will charge you for every process you run in automated fashion. And the cost would be not comparable to a real human salary, but you can think about that as a salary that you pay to a digital worker, to a bot that you created. And pretty much the salary is relatively high, could be $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a year. So typically, you do your first implementation on these big processes that are very visible, very painful, and things go well. You achieve positive ROI. But then you start to look for other processes, and you find that there's not so many this really centralized bulk processes that justify investment in development, in cost of licenses and maintenance. And you become in general less excited. And of course, you will go through all the obvious processes that you know are justifiable to automate. But at a certain moment, you will see a limit of the business case. And because of that, or maybe a few other reasons like focusing on wrong processes, people don't move forward. And it's surprisingly that it's a very powerful tool, but it remains on the shelf of many companies because they just don't realize that there are a greater variety of tools and greater variety of processes to automate, and they may reconsider and find something great.
Yeah, thank you, Dmitry. From our conversation just now and a little bit that I've read about your company, just to summarize that, it sounds like some of the 3 big hurdles that companies have to overcome when it comes to automating is the cost, choosing the right processes to scale, and then also the failure to really promote the ROI on those bots. So that is a nice segue into talking a little bit about ElectroNeek. Can you tell me about your company, why you started it, what it does, and how it goes about to solve that problem?
Always a pleasure. So the cost one is the biggest one. As I mentioned before, most vendors, most partners who deliver RPA to companies, they will charge for every process they automate or run in automated independent way. And we, when we started ElectroNeek, decided that it's a very interesting and a bit weird situation when you have a software And then you produce a bot using this software for which you already paid. And then you need to pay someone, to a software vendor, for running a bot. And that actually limits the scope and scalability of RPA. So we decided to build a tool that will allow to build bots that don't need a license to run. So it doesn't matter where you automate 1 process, 10 processes, or 100 processes, the final cost for the end user will be the same. And that model was very appealing to managed service providers who don't build bots for themselves, but build bots for their clients and deploy them in their client infrastructure. Just think about this. For instance, small accounting firm that can spend maybe only $10,000 of automation of a few processes. Historically, with leading RPA vendors, it was required to pay roughly half of that to the vendors for the bot software licenses. And what's left typically would be spent on internal implementation, someone from internal IT team doing the work, or to a partner managed service provider who will do that work for them. With removing the licensing cost from the equation at all, it creates much more opportunity for managed service providers to capture the value and to create the value for end client. And at the same time makes RPA much more scalable. It's actually very simple, unlimited scalability. People pay not only for the developer seats and not for the processes they automate. And because most of these clients are managed service providers, they are able to deliver RPA much more affordable price point to pretty much companies of any sizes.
That's great. Sorry, go ahead.
To our point about choosing up their own processes, that's a big problem. And software cannot help it itself. But what can help is an expertise, either your internal expertise or the partner you work with, a managed service provider. And because of that, many companies, they gravitate towards working with managed service providers. It's the biggest trend in RPA market globally in 2021, because they do have expertise, they do have experienced developers. And RPA is still pretty complex technology, like cybersecurity, where developer creates a lot of value, maybe 80%. 20 comes from the software, 80 from the developer. So you'd better have a team that is external to the organization, where developers are full-time working on RPA day by day, year by year. Or you can build your own center of excellence, center of expertise with such developers. That probably means you're not a small company. It probably means that you have more than 100 to 200 employees, or your business is very IT focused and RPA provides greater benefit.
It sounds like ElectroNeek has disrupted the RPA industry in a lot of ways, and the way that companies were thinking about RPA and managed service providers were thinking about RPA. Do you have anything to comment on that?
We think that these are managed service providers who are disrupting the industry now using our tool. They essentially in the market, and their success is our success. We just give the instrument and tools and provide services for them to be successful. But in the end of the day, we deliver RPA at much less cost for majority of market players, and that will be disruptive for overall the market. Someone needed to do that, because I think that high cost of bot licenses, that's something like consultant like me created in the past. It's a consulting gig. It's a nonsense to pay for a salary to a program in the end of the day. Why would you do that?
Yep. Now, it was also announced just today that ElectroNeek has raised its Series A funding. Congratulations. Is there anything that you wanted to add to
that? I would just say that to me, it's a big opportunity for managed service providers, let's say in accounting space. Since we joined the CPA Accelerator and I started to engage with small and bigger companies across the country, I found that many accounting firms are building pretty robust technology practices, technology consulting practices, managed service provider practices. Just a few of them do RPA. Majority of these practices will be ERP systems, CRM systems, accounting systems. Many companies are just value-add resellers rather than full-scale MSPs. And RPA market is just forming. So I think for many of the accounting firms, that's an opportunity to jump on board and to start building own RPA MSP business. That's perfect time for that, 2021. I've looked recently, there are maybe 600, 700 managed service providers in the States who already in RPA business, compared to 40,000 active managed service providers in general. So it's like 2-3% of the potential market. And at the same time, no one before made RPA affordable to smaller companies, to SMEs. They historically walked away from RPA because of the cost. The problems of scalability we mentioned, these are good problems to have, honestly. Most companies, they don't even move forward because when they look at the price of the first bot, they say like, no, we will do it in some other form. We will buy new software, or we'll change our IT infrastructure, or let someone just work on that manually for a few hours a day. That status quo is challenged now, and we will take this funding to pretty much, of course, build a better tool, increase the engineering capacity, the product capacity. But we also want to provide more services to companies who are new to RPA business, who need support in sales and marketing, who need extended technical support, and so on. We understand at this moment that services are very, very important, and we are the only one who pretty much services managed service providers. So if you never considered being an RPA business or considered in the past, that's time to revisit, because the market is changing, landscape is changing, opportunities are here.
Thank you so much. And congratulations again on raising that funding. It's great that ElectroNeek can bring RPA. As you said, you can make it more affordable and bring it to smaller companies. I just wanted to end our interview by just asking you, you were part of the 2021 Accelerator cohort. Can you talk a little bit about that cohort and how it's helped your company through different ways?
Thank you. I think we're honestly just starting. It's we started in February. Today is June 1st. So we are in the first 2-3 months, but that 2-3 months were really, really great in terms of first, my own personal understanding of accounting technology space, how the market is working, who are the big players, what are their internal challenges, what are smaller firms, why smaller firms have managed service providers practices, what kind of products they sell, and so on. And I came to the conclusion from this, let's say, customer development in the accounting industry, all organized with the help of AICPA and the connections, that first of all, accounting firms are in great shape to do RPA service externally because they have so much exposure to client processes. So if you implement an accounting system or ERP system for your client, you probably know well the processes and you know where the gaps in automation are. Let's say moving invoices into accounting system in automated manner. That's not so many companies do, but you can help them. Second one, how AICPA was very, very useful. It allows us to connect with people who might consider thought leaders in the industry, who understand well the trends and essentially trendsetters. And it helped us to convert a few of them into our customers and evangelists. For instance, we work now a lot with Realize.io. That's a community of, I would say, accountants in technology. It's growing very quickly, and they run workshops where they build bots. And these bots that come from these workshops, from this community, are very interesting because they provide an exposure to cases that I would never even think about. For instance, banking rules export in QuickBooks Online. Let's say you have a firm with 50 accountants, all of them use own instance of QBO with all own banking rules, how to pretty much classify transactions. How you centralize all of that knowledge and share that between these accountants. There is no way to do it with any of the technology, except of manually going and exporting the rules, combining them manually into one big Excel file and uploading them back. So Jason Stats, leader of this community, just built the bot that does all this work in a matter of minutes. So solving a big pain that bigger accounting firms may have. And to me, it's all, again, the community, the exposure to thought leaders, exposure to potential clients and business partners. We recently started with HLB, the firm that is very engaged with the AICPA in general and CPA.com Accelerator particularly, on scaling RPA in their member firms. It's very exciting for us. Technically, they're our biggest client at this moment.
Thank you for sharing so much about your company, about the Accelerator program, about how you're solving for scaling RPA. I'm just going to wrap this up by inviting our viewers, if they'd like to learn more about ElectroNeek or the different companies in our Accelerator cohort, they can go to CPA.com/Accelerator. We'll also put the link right in the comments. And thanks again for joining us. Stay tuned for the next Accelerator cohort interview.